is Ete with another episode of The Company Next Door. Today's a little bit of a different and a special episode. I had a chance to digitally sit down with Jeff Griffin. We've never met, and we recorded this a couple weeks ago during the height of the coronavirus, and so obviously we couldn't be together, we couldn't be in the room, but it didn't stop me from learning and having a great time and experience with Jeff. Jeff had a very tragic accident that for many could have just been the end of him, but he was able to turn into an experience and a business of traveling and sharing his message and inspiring hope in others. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Again, I apologize. It is a Zoom conference, and so I'm a studio guy. I know my way around microphones and studios, but the Zoom conference is new to me, and so it's not the best audio we've had, and I apologize for that, but I hope that the quality and the content makes up when you hear Jeff's amazing story. Here we go. Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Ete with another episode of The Company Next Door. I know I always say I'm excited about today's guest, so it's nothing new there, but I'm excited about today's guest. So it's going to be a little bit of a different show. Normally, everyone I've had on so far, for the most part, I've known for quite a while. I've known, whether it be through the community, and today I've got a chance to interview someone I've just met on Saturday for a little bit. We had a chat. If you have heard my last episode with Jeff Kohler of the Video Marketers Club, he introduced me to our guest today. And we had a short chat on Saturday, and I love his message. I love the story that he has, everything he has. It really fits in the purpose and the overall view of what we're trying to accomplish with the show, with inspiration. And this is going to be a great one. So I'm really excited about it. His name is Jeff Griffin. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, I'm awesome. Thanks for having me on here, Ete. I'm excited to be here with you. Like my son told me one time, he was 2 years old. He's like, "Dad, there's short hours and there's long hours." And I'm like, "Okay, this is pretty deep for a 2-year-old." So I'm like, "Okay, what's a long hour, son?" He's without hesitating. He's like, "Church." And I'm like, "Okay, what's a short hour then?" He's like, "Pokemon." So I'm excited, Ete. This is going to be a short hour. Maybe some of your listeners are going to be thinking, "This is a long hour. Holy cow, what is he talking about?" But yeah, I'm excited. I am so excited. I really think this is going to be a short hour.
Awesome. I do too. And I, some of the things that I've learned about you just over the last week, you're a public speaker. Well, first of all, you've had an incredible story, and I'll let you tell that when the time comes. But then it led you to a career shift, and now you've built this business around telling your story and inspiring others, and people are hiring you to be a public speaker. And you have different you speak to corporations or schools. You're an author of a book I've seen, and more, and you've got some online courses that you're building. So all around, I love the message, I love your story, but I also love the other side, the business side of it, the creativity and the entrepreneurial side of it. And I guess I want to start right there before we jump in. Did you ever see yourself being an entrepreneur? Did you ever see yourself out there doing what you do today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ete, because here's what's interesting. What you didn't mention is I've been an educator for the last 17 years.
Right.
I've got my master's in education and curriculum. I know there's a lot of people out there that's bagging on the education system, and there's a lot of things that need fixing. There really is. I've been in there. I've seen it. But I also believe that there's a lot of good things that happen as well. And I loved what I was able to do, but I wasn't able to do what I love. And that is to impact as many people as I possibly can. I was only able to hit about 200 people per year. And before I was an educator, I was a business owner. And we'll get into that. I owned my own business. I was a painter. I painted buildings, not pictures, and business was booming. And so after 3 years in the banking industry as a trust manager, I went off into the teaching, where it just filled my bucket. I was completely fulfilled there, but I still had this push to get out there and reach as many people as I possibly could. And so thank you for letting me be on your platform, because there's something about creating. There's something about building. There's something about making it your own. And so I left a very comfortable and consistent paycheck to jump in to the speaking industry. And my wife was so scared, but it's been 2.5 years now, and things are going great. And so I'm excited to be able to learn some things the first go around to this go around. And I'm excited because right now we're in a situation with our world, with our economy, where a lot of people might have been hit in the face a little bit, might have been impacted some way or another. That's been crushed a little bit. And so, I love just this idea of creating entrepreneurship and not just building this business, but building other people's businesses along their side.
Yeah, and I love it. And I often think there are two types of people. There's the creators and the destroyers, and I spend my life with people who are creating, whether it's music, whether it's business, because like you said, there's something really special and empowering and just incredible about creating anything. And in business, you're right, there is a lot of opportunities to be creative and to the point where sometimes it doesn't even feel like work because you're having so much fun building. Thank you. So let's jump in. Let's back us up. Can you tell us a little bit about the story, what we talked about on the phone, a little bit about the accident, pre-Jeff, post-Jeff, and start there?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'd love to do, and we're on a podcast, right?
Yeah, all audio.
Absolutely. And so what your listeners can't see, I'll try to describe. And what's kind of interesting is I went from 6'1" to 4'7" in an instant. I'm in a wheelchair, and I haven't always been in a wheelchair, but I went from 6'1" to 4'7". I was a college football player, wanted to be a college football player ever since a little kid. And I found myself on the ground, lying up to an unpainted barn. I had just fallen 40 feet. The scaffolding slipped out from underneath me. I was on my back. I had landed feet first, straight-legged, stuck the landing perfect if I was a gymnast. I wasn't. I was a painter. So my legs came down, my legs came up, my body came down, and my L1 vertebrae exploded inside me, leaving me paralyzed. And so instantly I went from a collegiate athlete who owned his own business, trying to get some money in between seasons, to now being on my back, looking at an unpainted barn and thinking, okay, now what? And if I could even go back even further than there, right? Because I know, I love to roll out on stage. I love to roll on stage and just address the elephant in the room. And the elephant, for those people who can see me, is how good looking I am. And I'm totally joking about that, right?
Because he's not lying, guys. He's not lying.
No. I'm completely joking about that one. But I love to play with the audience, because I've learned that you can find humor in every circumstance. In fact, during that moment, after I fell 40 feet, I was able to discover some humor after the fact. For example, I had fallen on my back, and my buddy comes over to me, starts shaking me, starts, rattling me back and forth. He's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't think you should be doing that." I remember looking up at his eyes and looking at him and telling him my fears, confirming my fears. And I'm like, "Doug, I think I'm paralyzed." He's like, "No, you can't be." I'm like, "No, I think I'm paralyzed. Go call the ambulance." And so he leaves me. He takes off. And here I am in this field. Didn't know for sure what had happened to my back, but I couldn't move. I couldn't feel. My dreams of playing football shattered in an instant. And the thought came rushing in on me, and that was, okay, now what? Now what? And so a question I love to ask my audience, and I want to ask your listeners, is, how do you deal with a major setback or a difficult challenge? How do you deal with a major challenge or a difficult setback? What's your MO? What's your go-to? Because I've learned that as soon as the pressure increases, the performance decreases. Whenever the pressure is present, whatever comes out of us is what we put into us. And that's why I love, the law of nature so well. If you apply pressure to an apple, juice is going to come out. But what kind of juice is going to come out? Apple juice. Absolutely. You apply pressure to a pineapple, and what's coming out?
Pineapple juice, man.
Pineapple juice. You apply it to an orange juice is coming out. Well, here's what's interesting. As soon as life applies pressure to us, whatever comes out is what we put in. And so often we like to blame and point fingers to other people. But I've learned that as soon as the pressure increases, typically the performance decreases unless we've planned for it. And so often I meet people, including myself, where I plant potatoes and I expect pineapples. And then when potatoes are grown, I get upset and shake my fist that no pineapples came out.
Right.
Now, this whole process, as I'm lying on my back here, I'm thinking of these things, right? Because I'm like, okay, how am I going to deal with this now? But what's your MO? What do you typically do when pressure is applied? Do you point fingers? Do you blame? Do you grow from it? Do you learn from it? Do you run away? Are you paralyzed in fear and you do nothing? And so, Ete, I may be paralyzed, and I may have been given a life sentence from a wheelchair of never walking, standing, or moving again. But I believe most of us, if not all of us, are paralyzed from the demons of doubt, fear, and complacency.
Especially today, man. Especially with this Corona experience.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is these lessons that I've learned. I like to call them. I like to say that I've gathered some flecks of gold that I've collected over these years, and I've practiced them. I've duplicated them. I've started to master them, and then I've started to teach other people to repeat them. And too often we pass these flecks of gold searching for gold nuggets. But if we constantly and consistently pick up these flecks of gold and we put them in our bag of knowledge and experience, eventually we have a bag full of gold. And then we can forge them and melt them into some gold nuggets. And I believe I had an opportunity to do that. After I had a chance to sift through my broken back and shattered dreams, I discovered some flecks of gold that helped me get to that point where I was able to play 2 downs in college football. And in sifting through my broken back and shattered dreams, I found these flecks of gold that I've turned into some gold nuggets that I believe have helped me get to the point where the doctors gave me a 0% chance of ever walking or standing again, Ete. The doctors gave me a 0% chance of ever having children. They said that's the first function to go, the last function to come back. Some people gave me a 0% chance of getting married, not because of my wheelchair, but just because of who I am. And I'm happy to report that 20 plus years later, my wife is still with me. I don't know how I convinced her to say yes. I don't know how I convinced her to stay with me these last 20 plus years. And the two of us now have 4 beautiful kids.
Wow. That
we've had together biologically. And I can currently stand up, Ete, and waddle across the room. Or as I like to say, walk with swagger. And so I feel like that's my calling. That's my purpose right now, is to help those who are mentally paralyzed pick themselves up, find the courage, find the faith, and find those tools that will help them take those steps forward in orchestrating and conducting the song that sings in their soul. And I'm excited. I'm just so excited to be here with you. And I know that I haven't even gone back far enough to kind of help give some context with some of these things that we're talking about, but I'm sure we will. But I'm so excited to just share a few things with you and your listeners.
Let me ask you this. So you fall down and you're laying on your back, right? You're looking up, mm-hmm. and you start to realize, wow, you don't even know how severe, but you're starting to realize this could be really bad, like life-changing. You've talked to, and so obviously a lot of physical things to overcome on a massive scale. I mean, almost impossible, right?
Mm-hmm.
On a mental side, what did that do to you, as you came to, and for that next period? I mean, how long did it take you to get back on your feet mentally? Like, to where did it take you to dark depressive places. Were you able to tell us a little bit about that journey too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I've wrote a lot of these flecks of gold, these gold nuggets in a book called I'm Possible, that I dream do. And I love to think that this is one of my greatest accomplishments because I got a D- in English in 6th grade.
Now you're an author.
Now I'm an author. But the funny thing is that when I got to high school, my English teacher told me, she told me straight in my face, Griff, you will never write a comprehensive sentence.
I love it.
And then when I got to college, my freshman year, my first year of English, I go in, I write that paragraph. The second day, they called 6 out of 300 to the back of the auditorium. They called my name. I go bounding back there. I'm like, what'd I win? And they're like, you on a date with the remedial English teacher. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, that's exactly why you need this class.
Yeah. That's funny, man.
And so when I was able to, sift through these broken pieces of my back and shattered dreams, I discovered these flecks of gold that I wrote in this book. And it took me 3 months to write it. I wrote it after I completed the 2004 Athens, Greece Paralympics Games. I was one of 12. I was one of 24 to be invited to go try out. Only 12 of us represented and made the team. We went to Athens, Greece, where it originated from. Great, beautiful experience, wonderful experience. Got to represent my country. And then after I got back from the Olympics and the Paralympics, there I am. I'm like, now what? And I realized, how did I get here? How did I get here? Because, that was in 2004 and I fell in 1995. So 9 years prior, here I am on my back. And you asked this question, how did you get out of that place? And did you go to a dark place? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah.
In fact, I call them mile markers instead of chapters. One of the mile markers, I call it exiting the sauna of self-pity.
There you go.
Because everything I had worked for up until that point was wrapped around my identity with being a football player, being fast, being quick, being agile, being athletic, and instantly, seconds, that was taken away from me. And you can imagine, here I am shaking my fist, at whomever I could blame. I'm shaking my fist. I'm shaking my fist at God. And I'm like, why me? Why now? When I was so close. And I entered that sauna of self-pity.
Wow.
And I call it, I just not entered it. I was wallowing. I was wallowing around in that syrupy, sticky sauna of self-pity. And it feels good at first, like any sauna. You go in there and I'm like, this feels good. And then you stay in there too long and then it can destroy you. And there was an experience that I had in the hospital that changed my life. It was a question that changed my life. It was a question that changed my life forever. And in fact, as I was sharing this story with one of my friends, he's like, Griff, that's the title to your next book. I'm like, okay. And that question changed my life. And I exited that sauna of self-pity. And I'll get to it. But if I can add some context to that question.
Sure, please.
I'm going to go way back to kind of help people understand this situation. Because I believe there was an experience that happened to me before this ever happened that kind of prepped me and prepared me. Because the question I always like to ask is, was that a bad experience for me? Was falling from the barn a bad experience? Was it a negative experience? And again, depending on when you ask me and what's happening, and that's why I always ask people, I'm like, is this moment right now that you think is a horrible experience where your business is falling down, where your relationship is crumbling, where you're struggling and you're experiencing this challenge or this major setback and you're trying to figure to pick yourself back up? People think it's a bad thing, but I'm like, is it a bad thing? And with time, I love time. Time is a wonderful elixir. And the thing is, we don't want to waste our time and we don't want to take too much time to get to that point to figure out that all things are for our good. If we're willing to look at that. My mom grew up in northern Utah on a farm, and she found herself knee deep in poop every day, scooping poop. these cows. She grew up in between the Great Depression and World War II, and so she didn't see a balloon until she was 11 years old. And so here's her world, like she's scooping poop, and she's not seeing all these things that we have today. And when I'm her age, fast forward, when I'm her age, 10 years old, I come walking into her office and I see on her computer this sign that kind of helped me out. And the sign read, "Challenges are like manure. They sure do stink, but they certainly help things to grow." Mm. And so for my 10-year-old mind, I'm thinking, okay, how can I simplify that? I'm like, okay, take your crap and turn it into a crop. Because my mom and grandpa would always take that, that cow poop, and they would gather it up and they would spread it on the field, and they would get a higher yield. And so that's what I tried to do, but it wasn't always like that. Because when I was a little kid, I think the reason why some of us don't dream, and some of us struggle, and some of us are experiencing depression or anxiety or some of these other distresses, is because we've stopped dreaming. We've stopped listening to the music that's inside our soul. Mm. And I believe that there's at least three things that are at the foundation of every solution. We spend so much time talking about the problem, but we need to spend more time talking about the solutions. Because I really do believe that once you decide that there's a solution, your mind is going to help you discover what that is. But if you keep on telling yourself that there isn't any solutions, that it's not possible, then you're not going to be able to find the solutions. You're not going to be able to find the answers that you're going to look for. And so, when I was a little kid, my dream was to play football, as I mentioned before. And so what's interesting here is a lot of us don't know what we want, but a lot of us don't know what we want, but the majority of us know what we don't want, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
If you've seen the Jungle Book, the cartoon Jungle Book, you've got those vultures on the tree, voiced by the Beatles. Love the Beatles. And they're sitting on this tree and they're asking each other, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know. What do you want to do?" "Don't start that again." And so I don't know if you've ever experienced this with your friends. You're like, "Hey, let's go get some dinner." Like, "Yeah, sure, absolutely. What do you want?" "I don't care. Whatever. Anything." Like, "Okay, well, let's get some Italian." "No, I don't want that. Anything but Italian." So I'm like, "Okay, well, I thought you didn't know. I thought you didn't care." I'm like, "Yeah, not that." I'm like, "Okay, well, what do you want?" "I don't care. Whatever you want." "Let's go get some Mexican." "Nah, let's not get that either." And so what's interesting is most of us know what we don't want, but the majority of us, few of us know what we want, and the majority of us know what we don't want. And unfortunately, we don't spend enough time, what I like to call dream weaving, where we take a few minutes and discover what really resonates. And I've discovered some things that I call dream weaving. 10 minutes will change your life. So at 10 minutes, we'll allow somebody, and what we do is we take this concept of taking what we don't want to figure out what we do want. Since most people don't know what they want, we're going to focus on what they don't want to figure out what they want. But the problem is if we focus on, we get what we focus on. So if we continue to focus on what we don't want, we're going to continue to get that.
Sure.
I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be fat. I want to be lonely. I don't want this or that. For me as a football player, is I don't want to drop the ball. I don't want to drop the ball. What am I focusing on?
Dropping the ball.
Dropping the ball. So what do I really want?
Right.
I want to catch the ball. And so with dream weaving, what we do is we take what we don't want to figure out what we do want, and we get rid of that. We shred it up, we tear it up, we burn it up, and we get rid of it. And fortunately for me, and fortunately for a very, very few of us, we know what we want just because it just sings to us. I wanted to play football, and I would carry a football with me everywhere I went. I would play it in the springtime. I played in the summertime. I played in the fall, of course, and in the wintertime was the greatest. Because I would drop plays on my chest. I'm like, "See that patch of powder? Let's go throw the ball over there." And I slow down on purpose and just lay out for it. And I'd come up, and with a big old smile on my face as snow's dropping off my face. I'm like, "Let's run it again." Mm-hmm. And I remember telling somebody my dream of playing football in college. And they're like, "Griff, you can't play football in college." And And it devastated me. I don't know if you've ever told somebody your dream and you've gotten the same response. You know, we tell people, hey, this is what I'm planning on doing. And they shut you down. Like, this is what I'm planning on doing. And then they shut you down. And sometimes we say it to somebody else and we shut ourselves down. Fortunately for me, I didn't realize at the time, but generally speaking, we as human beings, we base other people's possibilities on our limitations. And so people kept on telling me all the reasons why I couldn't play football in college. Like, Jeff, you can't play football in college. You're too short. You can't play football in college. You're too slow. You can't play football in college. You're too white. And I'm like, okay, too short, too slow, too white. But I didn't realize that most of us reject what we don't understand. We base our possibilities on what we know.
Absolutely.
There's the paradox, because we don't do anything until we know it's possible. The only way to know it's possible is to do it. We truly don't understand a thing unless we do it. And for me, fortunately enough for me, I kept on tapping into and filling up my reserves of resilience and just kept on chasing down that dream. And it wasn't until one day after practice my senior year, I came home and there was a letter on the table from the school that I wanted to go to. I grew up in Cache Valley. I wanted to go to the school down south at BYU because they were a passing team. And I envisioned myself making catch after catch from the next All-American quarterback down there. And when I couldn't play football on Sundays, I'd go down into my basement and I played in my mind. And here I come home from practice, and there on the table is an envelope from the legendary Hall of Fame coach inviting me, the short, slow, white guy, to come play for him. And I was so astonished. I'm like, no way, he must be giving this to everybody. So I took the envelope, took the letter, took it to practice the next day, and asked all my teammates, hey, did you guys get one of these? And they thought I was just rubbing it in their face. They tried to take me out of practice. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you're the biggest jerk, man. And so I got to experience 2 downs that day. I got to experience and taste the sweetness of success. And so as leaders of success and successful leaders, and I think they're 2 different things, our job is to not just get people to the stadium to watch this game called life, but to get them down from the stands and onto the sidelines with a jersey on their back. And not just to get them on the sidelines participating in and seeing and experiencing this game called life, but to actually get them into the game, onto the field. And I got to taste the sweetness of success. I got to experience what it'd be like to be on the first team. I got to be on the field. I got to hear the sounds and smell things and hear things and see things that you don't see up there in the stands. And so it's interesting to, I learned some valuable lessons there about what a successful leader is. And I've learned that all men and women of history are men of service. And so if we want to be successful leaders and leaders of success, we've got to learn how to serve. We've got to learn how to get other people to serve. And once that happens, man, compound greatness just takes place. Compound greatness. And I got to experience what it would be like to be on a first team. We were undefeated that day. We went 11-0. We were ranked number 2 that year. And I got to experience a lot of things that would help me for this moment that, that we're talking about right now, where I'm lying on my back, looking up at this unpainted barn, unfinished business. And here I am wondering, will I ever get back to the big stage? Will I ever be able to compete on the world stage? And I haven't been able to play football yet, but that's okay. I've been able to play on the world stage. I've been able to do things that most men don't do out of a wheelchair. And that's what I'm excited to do here, is just to help as many people as I possibly can understand that they have the ability to achieve their dreams and desires, that they have the capacity, that they have the DNA to create.
So did you always have this mindset, pre your experience? Were you always so full of hope and enthusiasm and have this belief that everybody had the ability to create? Or was this something that came to you after you had to work through this really hard situation?
Great question. In fact, I always tell my son, I call it the possibility principle, P squared mindset. I call it the P squared mindset. And by the way, the benefits of a P squared mindset, I believe that a P squared mindset will teach you how to develop a desire that matches your dreams. And then once your desires match your dreams and are coupled with emotion, you begin to experience the unimaginable possibilities to create. Now understand, I didn't always have this P squared mindset. In fact, I told you that I played 2 downs. But what I didn't tell you is my freshman year that I showed up on campus, I thought, I'm a big fish in a small pond. I'm going to go up there and be a big fish in a bigger pond. This is going to be good. And so when I arrived on campus my freshman year and showed up to practice, catches I typically caught, I dropped. Routes I ran with crispness, I stumbled and fell. Teammates that were encouraging me in the past were discouraging me in the present. And so all these things were just coming at me. The pressure was increasing. And it was more than I thought I could handle. And so I quit. In fact, that's the irony to this day, is because I always go around and tell people how to not quit, to keep on going, because most people have been taught the opposite of success is what? Failure.
Yeah.
Opposite of success is failure. But here's the deal. I've never met anyone who has not failed their way to success.
Absolutely.
And part of success is in the failing, because we gain strength in the struggle. In fact, that's another benefit that comes with the P squared mindset. And I had to learn this and I had to develop it. And the P squared mindset, in essence, comes from Ralph Waldo Emerson, where he says, that which we persist in doing becomes easier for us to do. Period. Reading is reading, writing is writing, arithmetic is arithmetic. Even if you have dyslexia like myself, you can figure things out if you just stick with it long enough. And so you asked, did I always have this? In fact, no, I didn't. I showed up on campus my freshman year and I quit. To make matters worse, I called my mom and dad up and told them that I was cut. And so not only did I quit on my dreams and give up, but I lied. And just admitting that to this day, it causes me some embarrassment. But I've also learned a lesson of a lifetime that I believe has prepared me for that experience of being on the ground, falling 40 feet and breaking my back. And the lesson that I learned was, when your dreams are not definite and do not match up with if your desires are not definite, do not match up with your dreams, you allow the debilitating darkness of doubt, fear, and complacency paralyze you to the point where you quit. Where you quit on your dreams, you quit on your teammates, you quit on your coworkers, you quit on your family, you quit on life. And so if we want to be leaders of success and successful leaders, we've got to learn how to develop a definite desire, a burning desire, a desperate desire, because of the conflicting and competing desires that constantly creep in. And what I mean by that is, I have a buddy who's overweight. He's like, Griff, I want to lose weight. I think I could lose some weight if I was with you long enough. I'm like, let's do it. He's like, no, really, I think I could lose some weight. I'm like, let's do it. And in between sentences, he would take a drink from his big gulp. I really want to lose weight, and take a bite from his Twinkie. And so I always ask my listeners and audience, I'm like, does my buddy have a desire to lose weight? And a lot of people will jump on it and shake their head that no, he doesn't have a desire to lose weight. But I think he has a desire to lose weight. But what does he have a greater desire to do? Eat Twinkies and drink big gulps. And so I learned a valuable lesson in leaving. I believe that If we don't learn from our failures, then of course, we're not going to be able to, we're not going to find success. And so I went and talked to my coach. I left for 2 years to go serve the people in Spain, served an LDS mission for 2 years, and I discovered the P-squared mindset. I discovered this possibility principle that I mentioned to you that helps you match your desire, develop your desire that matches your dream, and couple it with some emotion. It also helps you understand that, hey, give yourself permission to fail, especially if you're learning something new. Because failures at first are triumphs at last, as long as you just don't quit. And so you ask the question, were you always this positive? Were you always this strong mentally? My wife would say yes, because that's all she's known. In fact, she tells me all the time, she's like, Jeff, can you bring it down a little bit? And I'm like, can you bring it up a little bit? And we all know where that goes. That conversation goes, right?
That's funny, man.
And so this possibility principle stems from, that quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, where he says, that which we persist in doing becomes easier for us to do. If we continue to persist in quitting, it's going to get easier for us to quit. If we persist in pointing fingers and finding fault and finding excuses and living below the line of shame, blame, and justification, we're going to get better at doing all those things. That which we persist in doing becomes easier for us to do. And so if we want to live a life of abundance, a life of creation, a life of success, a life of color, when are we going to start to dream in color? We're going to have to develop that P-squared mindset. And I've just shared with you 2 of the 5 things that comes with that P-squared mindset. Do you mind if I share the other 3 things with you?
Please do.
So we've got that the dreams and desires must match and be coupled with faith, with emotion. We also have to give ourselves permission to fail, because failure is the first or triumphs at last, as long as we just don't quit. And of course, we have to understand that it's the process and not the promise that helps us progress.
Sure.
So often we're always asking, hey, give me X, Y, and Z. Give me X, Y, and Z. And so we don't even realize that it's the process that will help us get to the promise. And so a lot of times we abort the process and don't realize that that's the thing that's going to help us get to the promise. And so part of the process is to fail. Give yourself permission to fail. And of course, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Whenever you do anything new, it's going to be uncomfortable. When I went up to play football in college, it was uncomfortable because it was a different speed. It was a different level. It was a different competition. And I just wasn't comfortable. I wasn't qualified. I wasn't good enough. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't good enough. I was good enough. Because after 2 years, I came back and I was able to make the team, and I got to taste the sweetness of success. I got to experience what it would be like. And then the 4th thing that comes with the P-squared mindset is this idea that, as I mentioned, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. We find strength in the struggle. And then the 5th thing, which is my favorite thing, the P-squared mindset helps you be gritty. It helps you find hope. Angela Duckworth says that gritty people are hopeful people.
Great book she wrote.
It's a great book. In fact, I'd like to turn it around and say, hopeful people are gritty people.
Yeah.
And for me, hope means the ability to reach out to the future and grab onto your dreams and bring it back to the present in spite of your past. Because how many times does our past paralyze us from helping us go forward, to take that step forward, to dream another dream, to listen to that song that we've been ignoring this whole time, or to do something that we've never done before? This might be a perfect opportunity for a lot of people who are like, you know what? Yeah, things have just crumbled to the ground. This is a perfect opportunity for me to start and build what I've always wanted to build.
Absolutely.
And so we've got to get over the past, and we've got to create that P-squared mindset. And I always tell people, you've heard that Chinese proverb, right? The best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago. The next best time to plant a tree is today. And so when the moment to perform has arrived, the moment for preparation has passed. And so here we are on the ground in Preston, Idaho, Napoleon Dynamite country, where I'm on my back. And not just on the back and falling 40 feet in my dreams of playing football have been crashed and shattered. But now I'm in this sauna of self-pity. And I've been there before. I know what it can do. I know how destructive it is. I know what PTSD and depression and anxiety and all those dark places can lead to. And I was fortunate enough to be asked the question that changed my life forever. That experience in football prepared me for this moment, but that question that I was asked helped propel me to where I am today. And honestly, I'd say I have not been back to that sauna of self-pity. It's been 20 plus years. I've had some bad days. I've had some difficult days. I've had some lonely days, but they haven't been dark and they haven't been depressing. Wow. Because I realized, guess what? Inch by inch is a cinch. Yard by yard is hard. And if we try to consume it all at once, we're going to get overwhelmed. Right. And it's not going to happen. So do you want to know what that question is?
Yeah, give it to us, man. The cliffhanger. I got my pen. I'm ready to write. What is it?
All right. So here's the question that changed my life. After my surgery, I had a new dream. And that dream was to walk again, to run again, to have a full recovery. And I told the doctor my dream, and guess what he did? He laughed at me.
Yeah, I was going to say, probably wasn't too optimistic.
No, in fact, he's like, listen, Griff, look down at your stomach. I had an incision from my belly button to my backbone. It was stapled shut. 8-hour surgery. They went in, deflated my lungs, detached my diaphragm, cut off one of my ribs, cleaned up the shrapnel inside me, put a 4-inch plate, 2 screws on top, 2 screws on the bottom, sewed me up and stapled me shut. I couldn't feel. Couldn't move. In fact, it took me 30 minutes to get out of my bed into the wheelchair with the aid of 2 nurses. So all the evidence was stacked up against me, similar to the evidence of playing football. And so, yeah, here I am struggling because the evidence is stacked up against me. The expert is telling me, hey, listen, you're not going to walk again. It's impossible. And I love the quote from Muhammad Ali that says, impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it.
That's a good one.
And so I'm like, okay, never say never because no one ever has. But 30 minutes getting out of my bed into my chair, can't move anywhere. They wouldn't feed me anymore unless I got out of bed and went to the cafeteria. So after 3 days, I don't know if you ever experienced this before, where you go after your dream, you sprint after your dream. And then you get tired and exhausted. And sometimes dreams are like marathons and take years, if not decades, to create. Most overnight successes take 10 years. So here I am. I'm getting out of my bed. I'm rolling to the cafeteria. I'm having a pity party. I'm in the sauna of self-pity. I'm shaking my fist at God. I'm crying down these sterile halls of the hospital. My dreams they don't even look in color. I know I said I wanted to walk. My dream was to walk out of the hospital after the 3 months, but the evidence was stacked up against me and I was starting to believe the experts. And I go and I roll into the cafeteria and I grab my tray and I get some food on it, and I want to get as far away as possible from any human contact. I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, where life just sucks and you want to get away from everything that causes you pain. So I go to the corner of the cafeteria, put my tray down. I'm flavoring my food with my tears, and I want to be left alone. And this tray plops down in front of me, and I look up to this person in front of me, and I'm about to tell this person to go somewhere with words that I won't use on our podcast. And he looks at me and I look at him. I'm about to tell him to go take a hike when he asked the question that changed my life. And the question was this: why are you crying, dude? I'm like, what? Like, why are you crying, dude? And in his slurred speech, I realized what he was asking me. He said, and the question he was asking me was, why are you crying, dude? And I looked around and I'm like, why am I crying? I was able to start to see things that I'd never seen before. Dr. Wayne Dyer says that when you begin to change the things you look at, the things you look at begin to change. And all of a sudden this question was asked, like, why are you crying, dude? And I looked around and I'm like, I see this guy who's paralyzed from the neck down. He has a halo on. It's screwed to his forehead. He can't even move to eat. He has to sit there and have somebody feed him. The guy right next to him is paralyzed from the neck down, but he has some movement. He can lift his arm up and down. So they tape a fork to his fingers, to his hands. And he reaches down there and gets the food, and it gets it up to his mouth, and it falls down. And he has almost nothing in his mouth at that time. And I'm looking around. I'm like, why am I crying? I'm able to move my arms. I'm able to get in and out of bed. It might take me half an hour, but I'm able to get in and out of bed. I'm able to adjust and relieve pressure. I'm able to do so many things that I didn't think was possible before. And the irony with this person who asked me the question, Ete, is the guy sitting across from me was a prisoner from the point of the mountain that set me free from my prison. Why are you crying, dude? How do you deal with major setbacks and difficult challenges? Do you cry? Do you whine? You know, a buddy of mine, Travis Anderson, told me, he's like, hey, I like to compare that leadership styles as a BMW and an SUV. I love BMWs, but BMW is an acronym for a leader who bitches, moans, and whines. Where an SUV leader is someone who serves with vision and unity and brings people together. Why are you crying, dude? We have an opportunity in front of us, Ete. We have an opportunity in front of us to be able to pick people up, to lift people out, and to offer, a hand up, not a hand out, a hand up. And in offering other people a hand up, we are serving. We are doing what every great man and woman of history does, and that is to serve. And if we can find ways to serve one another, we'll find eventually that, you know what? If I've served enough people, everything that we give out comes back. If you want love, give love. If you want money, give money. And hopefully you don't do it in a selfish reason, right? But this is a great opportunity where it might look like a challenge, but in reality, it's an opportunity for us to orchestrate and conduct a song that sings in our soul to help other people, right? How can we as entrepreneurs, as owners and business and leaders serve others? So no, I haven't always had this type of mindset, but I work on it because I've learned that it has a short shelf life. The P squared mindset has a short shelf life. If you're not working at it, just kind of like my muscles. I laid in that hospital bed for 2 weeks, and my muscles that I had worked so hard to become strong and precise was gone. It took me years to get to that point. And within minutes, hours, and days, it was gone. And so anywho, we've got to work on it constantly. And so we can focus on what we can't do, or we can focus on what we can do. And I've learned that by focusing on what you can do, you end up doing so much more. Every minute we spend on thinking that it's not possible, we lose 60 seconds in finding the solution.
I love that so much of this really, like you said, it's just a mindset. It's everything is inside of us to create and to be fulfilled, to be happy, to be satisfied, but also to create greatness. And it's just a matter of, like you're saying, of unlocking it, of asking this question, why are you crying, dude? And realizing you can do this, you can get up. And let me ask you this real quick. You've built a company around this, right?
I have.
And that's what you're doing now. I mean, you mentioned you've been doing some speaking, you've got your book, you've got your course. And so you built a company around sharing this message. What's that like?
Yes, it's fantastic because as I mentioned before, I had created a career. I'd built a career in teaching. And so here's all I know, right? It was 16 years. But here's the beauty of it. I had 16 years to take these flecks of gold and develop a process that works on some of the harshest critics called teenagers and young adults.
Yeah.
But I've learned that C-suite individuals and executives are even more harsh than critics because they think they know it all.
Yeah.
Teenagers that have not figured it out yet. And so I had an advantage here for 16 years. I had an opportunity to teach these kids. For the first year, I developed 75 personal development lessons. The second year, another 75. The third year, another 75. The fourth year, another 75. So I had 300 lessons, that personal development and leadership lessons I had developed. And over the next 12 years, I had the opportunity to master them and fine-tune them and discover which ones resonate with these teenagers and which ones resonate year in and year out. And how does it help you find a wife, right, when you're in a wheelchair? How does it help you have 4 kids when you're told you can't? How does it help you get up out of your chair and take a step when you were told you never could do that? And so it was interesting to see the numbers. So this isn't just based off of some Pollyannish stuff, right? Because one time I went and shared this speech at a place, and one of the feedback was, it's too Pollyannish to me. Can't happen. It's not possible. And I just took it with a grain of salt. I'm like, okay, absolutely. You base your possibilities on what you know. You reject what you don't understand. And you base your possibilities on what you know. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, dude, Griff's faking it." I'm not. I was able to, after 5 years, it was interesting to see the numbers. The completion rate just skyrocket. It was at 78% when I first started. After 5 years, it jumped up to the high 80s, mid 80s, and the rest of the area was still at 78% completion rate. And then after that, I'm like, okay, I found the secret sauce that I'm able to predict what's coming. The next 5 years, it jumped up to the low 90s. And then when I left in 2017, my completion rate was 98% when the rest of the area was still at 80%. So I've been able to take these principles that I've been teaching in the classroom and duplicating in my own life. And now I'm able to take them out there into the business world and help corporations and colleges and individuals, crush their dreams. I had a company call me up and say, "Hey, listen, Griff, come speak to our relationship managers." It was a bank in California that wanted to bring in $400 million worth of new business. And so there was some pushback. And there's always going to be pushback whenever you do something new that you're not familiar with, especially when the pressure increases. What's going to come out? What comes out is what we put in. So the solution to pollution is dilution. And so we got to make sure that we are working on that P squared mindset on a daily basis. I call it the daily dime. 5 minutes at night and 5 minutes in the morning. That's all it takes. It's not that long. And I'm happy to report that this company not only hit their 400 million, they exceeded it by 150 million. So it was a great return on investments.
Yeah.
Their speech. And so I get to go in there and just eliminate their excuses. The VP of sales came up to me afterwards like, "Griff, thank you so much for eliminating our excuses. There's no reason why we can't hit our 400 million.
That's awesome.
And so it's been great to create this. When I first jumped from teaching and doing this full time, I've been speaking for 10 years previous to this point. Now I gotta jump in this full time. It's now or never. My desire was to get 26 paid speeches the first year. I got 46 paid speeches. They were peanuts and they were for pennies, but it was momentum that you need in this industry.
Yeah.
There's nothing that shuts momentum down than telling somebody that you can't go and speak for their company because you have to teach a class. Last year, we hit 60 speeches and tripled our revenue. And then this year, 2020, I'm going to go the opposite direction. I'm going to decrease my speeches but triple my revenue again. Even with this crisis, this psychological tsunami that has coursed through our country, there's no question in my mind that we're going to hit these numbers. There's no better time than now than the world needs the information I have to help forge ordinary men and women into extraordinary leaders, world record leaders that produce world record results.
I'd like to talk just a little bit about the business, but I don't want to cut off any of the content, the story. So is it okay to do a little bit of a switch for me to ask some more business questions, or would you like to stay where we are?
Absolutely. This is the perfect time, because that is the story, right? Because what I've done here is I've taken that experience, right? And I'm like, okay, how did I get here to be a college football player? That was taken away. How do I pick up the pieces and dream new dreams and make it to the Paralympics? Be a silver medalist, be a 2-time Guinness World Record holder, be a 4-time MVP wheelchair NBA basketball player at the All-Star game. How did I marry this fantastic woman, and how have I created this new career and this new job? It's because of these principles, these gold nuggets that I've written in these books and have just put into practice what I've been preaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And it's powerful, and it's making a difference. Where do you see yourself? So, you had some goals for the amount of speeches that you did per year, and you mentioned this year you'd like to decrease and increase revenue, which is fantastic. I mean, you've earned it. You've worked hard to set that footwork. So hopefully that all pans out. What is your ultimate goal with the company of it? Like, is there a certain gig that you have lined up that you want to, that would be the pinnacle for you? Or is it just getting paid the value that you think it's worth? What would it be? What does it look like?
How big do I want to get this? And I realized that I can't do it on my own. Yeah. I can't do it on my own, where I've got to work smarter, not harder. That's where I was going. Because one of the five building blocks is to work harder, not smarter. And part of working smarter is focusing on these keystone habits. And so I realized that, my kids are only going to be around for so long, 2 more summers, and then my daughter's gone. And I've never met anybody who's at the twilight of their years, their armchair years, as I call them, where they're rocking in the armchair and they're lazy boy. And you ask them, hey, you know what? What are your regrets? Or are there any regrets? And I've never heard anybody say that I wish I would have spent more time at work. No success can compensate failure in the home. And I believe that's one of the greatest things that we have to create is a society. And a society only functions if the family is functioning.
Right.
And so how can we create that family that's going to be solid, solid citizens of society? And so for me, what I want to do here is, for right now, one of the greatest desires of my heart is to be on stage with Hugh Grant. He's
okay. You got to explain that one.
he's Wolverine, right?
Yeah.
Is Hugh Grant Wolverine? He is, isn't he?
No. That's Hugh Jackman.
There you go, Hugh Grant. Okay. I'm thinking huge Grant. Yeah, Hugh Jackman. Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman. The reason why I want to be on stage with Hugh Jackman, because here is this guy who's goes out there and he's just creating, and he's one of my heroes. Where he's established some of these great videos, and he is the pinnacle of this network marketing industry. And I spoke for the governor's wife here in Utah at her fundraiser. And after I got finished, I was shaking hands with the governor, and I call them the Eagle's Nest. The people in the background who make sure the AV and the video is all good stood in line for 15 minutes just so he could talk to me, so he could tell me what had happened. He comes up and says, Jeff, I just want to let you know I've been doing this for 15 years. I've been to this Vivid Arena, the Delta Center, the Salt Palace, the Utah Valley Convention Center. He's like, I've been doing this for 15 years. I want to let you know that your speech is one of the top 3
Wow.
that I've experienced. And I like to tell people that I am the greatest unknown speaker you've never heard of yet. And so for me, what would just be so fulfilling is to be on stage and actually having that opportunity. You know how you go to a show and the warm-up act blows the main act out of the water?
I love that. It makes me so happy.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
That's what I want to do.
Gotcha.
I want to be the main act that really gives help and hope to people. You know, I always say that I want my friends and families to remember me as a man who lifted their spirits, lightened their loads, and loved them, and gave hope to those around me. That's really what I want to do. That's really what I want to be known for here in the end. And in the process, I just want to experience life to the fullest. You know, I always said that I'm going to walk and not faint. I'm going to run and not be weary. But until then, I can live life to the fullest with what I've got. And so I want people to understand that they have so much more than they think they've got.
Yeah, for sure.
And so if I can, you can. If I can, anyone can. I am just an underordinary guy that does the ordinary things a little extraordinary. And so if we can focus on those things, we'll begin to create so many extraordinary things. And so, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do here in these next few months, is to be on that big stage, be one of the warm-up acts that just blows the main act out of the water. And then I want somebody else to come along and just blow me out of the water. Because if that's happening, we're just getting bigger and better, and everyone around us is starting to grow.
Yeah.
And I've learned that there is synergy. There is synergy and unity. And especially if we're all trying to do the same thing, which I believe you're doing. You know, you're trying to help inspire and motivate, and not just motivate, but to transform. And that's what I like to say. People call me a motivational speaker, but I like to refer myself as a transformational speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I like what you said, because that is exactly it. You know, I drive through the neighborhoods and I know all these people, and so many are doing incredible things. I mean, I've got some incredible entrepreneurs, men and women, you know, in my area, and nobody tells their story, you know, and then there's these musicians and authors like yourself. And it's like, it's one of those things where you go, you know, we're just ordinary people, but they're doing it. And that's, and so that's why I love your message. That's the message that I want to get across, is you can do this, and we're here for you. We're doing it. We're taking care of our families in totally different ways, but we're doing it. And we're just regular people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a great idea, if you have an inspiration or a passion, do it. Like, just look at the risk and just take it, man. You know what I mean? It's, and I want to kind of stay on this for a second, but I love what you said. I think it was in one of your videos, but you said something about, I believe most individuals are paralyzed. I saw that in one of your YouTube videos. You said something like that. And I thought, wow, like, I don't know if we can see that in ourselves, how we are truly paralyzed, how the fear holds us still when we don't reach our potential. And so I love you're going around trying to unlock and give people the tools to not be paralyzed, you know, mentally.
Absolutely. In fact, I don't know if your listeners, I guess there wouldn't be a link on the side on this.
So we put in the show notes. Yes, we'll put a link to the website and anything else that you recommend.
Perfect. So there's a video called 9,711 feet. I'm like, that's not a very good title. So I changed it to Just Don't Quit, capital D-O, capital I-T. And it's me climbing up Mount Ben Lomond. It's 9,711 feet. And my wife's like, hon, you want to climb Mount Ben Lomond, but you won't put a cup in the sink. And I'm like, that's not newsworthy. and so it's a video of me having this desire of climbing that mountain. I wasn't even supposed to get out of my chair. And so 2 years, I mentioned it to some people in our neighborhood, and just last August of 2019, we made it happen. It took me 3 hours to get to the top and 4 hours to get down. But we got up there. I walked the whole way to the top. Wow. And we strapped some things, and we created some things to help me be able to, it was kind of like some parallel bars that some men were putting on their shoulders as support. And then I would just use that as some balance, and we walked up to the top. And this is the idea of, the whole journey, I was concerned for them, because I'm like, I know you guys can do this in 2 hours. I know some of you guys can do this in less than an hour.
Yeah.
It was 3.5 miles up, 3.5 miles back. And I'm like, I know I'm slowing you down, but I also know that you guys will never forget this experience, because how much you had to struggle to help me struggle, to help us struggle to get to the top. And we eventually got to the top. And there's no question in my mind that if somebody has a clear, concise dream and they can see it, and then they can map it out. And if they don't know how to map it out, find somebody who does know how to map it out, because there's people out there that can do it. And like I mentioned before, as soon as you don't believe you can, eliminate that word, I can't. Eliminate the word can't, because it's debilitating, it's limiting, and it's paralyzing. As soon as you tell yourself that you can't, your mind accepts it immediately, and you'll never can find the solution. But as soon as you tell yourself that it could be, it can be, I'll figure it out, it is possible, then your mind starts to look for the solution. Then you start to look for these Superman solutions to help you get up, around, over, through, under. And again, none of us are Superman. We're just ordinary people that are just doing things and taking it one step at a time. And there's no doubt in my mind that if I know where I want to go, I'm going to get there as long as I keep on going. As long as I keep taking that one step after that next step after that next step. But so many people want to have it today or tomorrow. They're not willing to sow and to plant and then to reap. They just want to reap. Yeah. And they don't give themselves that opportunity to fail. That's part of the process. That's part of success, is to fail. Yeah. Fail with glory.
Fail fast and fail hard, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, man. Well, I love your message. Let me ask you this: is the best place? Where's the best place? I'm going to put a link below, but where is the best place to get access to Impossible, to get access to some of your courses and your content?
Yeah, if you go to griffinmotivation.com, Griffin, it's like the mythical beast, half eagle, half lion. I like to tell people, hey, my name means mythical beast. And my wife, I like to convince my wife that I am mythical and a beast. And she's like, you're neither a beast nor a mythical. I'm like, okay, once I was, and maybe I will be again. So griffinmotivation.com. If you go to the shop section, you can get any of our items. In fact, for your listeners at Day, we'll give it 50% off if you put the
that's awesome.
Love, just to pass on some love to you.
Okay.
But I just want to let you guys know that there's some books out there. I'm Possible, Desire, Dream, Do. That's the book of the story of how I learned how to chase my dreams, accomplish my dreams, have my dreams shattered, and find myself in this pit of despair, depression, and darkness. And then being able to find the light and being able to get out of that song of self-pity and then chase new dreams and finding solutions, Superman solutions, as I call them. And so that was just an introduction to the story. I've got a new book that just came out last month. It's called Endless Possibilities. It's the infinity sign. Call it E to the infinite P, a 90-day recipe for world record results. This one kind of gets you in the nitty-gritty of helping you establish that dream. We've got dream weaving. That's a 10-minute task that will change your life forever. It's simple, just not easy. And then, of course, we have an online course that if you want to, I do a workshop besides the keynote. The keynote's super powerful. People are just blown away. They're just transformed by it. But if you don't want to pay the money or to just, have the keynote just for your individual purposes, We have workshops, but if the workshop doesn't work for you as well, we've got an online course that's based on the workshop, that's based on the speech, that's based on the book, that's based on these gold nuggets that I've discovered and forged into some gold nuggets. And so, in fact, Forbes has just picked me up.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Forbes has asked me to be a contributor. They're going to do some online work as well. And so I'm going to be one of their contributors. You are the solution to impossible is what I'm pitching it to be, because you are the solution to impossible. And we're going to be focusing on mindset. I'm convinced that it's 100% mental. Yeah. How you prepare, how you practice, how you perform, it's all mental.
That's awesome. So for our listeners, you said we'll put it in there. If we use the code LOVE, we get a discount. It was about half off or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely will be reading the book, and I hope I get a chance to catch you live, because just our conversation. So for you guys, I know you don't get to see him, but I'm getting to see him and watch his energy. And not only is it contagious, but it's inspiring. I feel like I need to run out right now and go do something great. So yeah, we'll put a link below. Wow, man, thank you. Your message is fantastic. I hope you have already obtained, more than you could ever even imagine. And that's what's so awesome about this. And I hope it just, like you said, just gets bigger and bigger, and we can bring people with us on this journey of just, you can do it. We believe in you. It's limitless. We limit ourselves.
We really do. And I'm excited to see what the next 40 years brings.
Yeah.
The next 40 years, like people are like, "Oh, Griff, you're so old." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm just getting started. I'm just getting started." Most millionaires are discovered, or most millionaires happen by the time they're 40 to 60 years old.
Yeah.
And so I'm just barely getting my groove on.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. Well, thank you, man. Thank you so much for your time. It's been great.
No, thank you, Ete. I'm telling you right now, what you're doing is amazing. What you've done is amazing. What you're going to continue to do is amazing. And understand, we all have our ups and downs. And it's going to happen. And the key is, how can I establish some holy habits and righteous routines to get me through those downs and to get me through those days where you're just like, you know what? Maybe I don't want to walk. Maybe I don't want to be this business owner. Maybe I don't, want to lead the state of Utah. Maybe I don't want to go to Mars. I'm wondering if Elon Musk has ever, said that to himself in some of those moments of weakness. Right? Maybe I don't. Maybe I really don't want to go to Mars. But if we have those holy habits and righteous routines, and we have a clear, concise dream, I'm convinced success is a 3-part series. You got to know what you want. You got to finish what you start, and you got to celebrate the process. And so, Ete, thank you so much for letting me celebrate this process with you and your listeners. And I was honored to be a part of this.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for tuning in with us. Again, check your show notes out for the link. And if you want to hear more from Jeff, and I hope you do, you'll know where to go. Last thought, you should make a shirt that says, "Why you crying, dude?" Have you done that?
I have not yet.
Or a sticker. That's just funny, but once I hear it with the story, like, that will stick with me forever. Like, I think the next time I hit a hard spot, I'll be like, "All right, man, why you crying, dude?"
Why you crying, dude? Absolutely. So my one shirt that I'm getting made right now, it's Griffin Impossible, because we've got some things that we're doing here. And then that's my next book, is Why You Crying, Dude. We'll have bumper stickers, we'll have shirts, we'll have everything else, but we celebrate as we have this big old mastermind as we come together and celebrate.
Awesome. All right, man. Thank you so much, and have a great one.
All right, man. Thank you.
See ya.